Doghouse Racing League is proud to be sponsored by Shoney's. Shoney's is today's all-American kitchen, open daily for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Shoney's guests can count on quality, delicious food along with warm, friendly service. Stop by one of the West Virginia locations to try their freshly prepared legendary breakfast bars. And don't forget to take home a whole strawberry pie. Shoney's, delicious food and friendly service since 1947. Are you looking for sports merchandise for your favorite teams, apparel, jerseys, headwear, hard goods, and looking to be involved with NASCAR? Fanatics is your one-stop shop. Fanatics is partnered up with all major professional sports leagues, as well as hundreds of collegiates and pro teams. Join them now at Fanatics. And if you use the link down below in the description, you'll be able to help out the Doghouse Racing League. While using that link, all commissions go to the Doghouse Racing League, which helps fund prizes and goods for the drivers out on track. Thank you so much for Fanatics, and enjoy the show! Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting on your Thursday night. Tonight, we give you the coverage of the Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series. Tonight, the drivers get prepared for another race this season as we are into the second half of our 2024 Season 2. The drivers get to test their short track ability at the 3/4 of a mile course of Richmond Raceway. Once again, we're excited to give you all the coverage here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. With me this evening will be Zach Hall. And Zach, we're underway with qualifying at this moment, but coming off of an off week, we've got 3 races in a row before Thanksgiving break later in the month. But tonight, it really feels like it's time for a shift if anyone's going to catch up to Brandon 6.
That's for sure. You're going to definitely need to start, getting yourself towards that way for sure with the lead that he's starting to build up in the points. But we'll see. Tonight could be a good opportunity for drivers to have an opportunity, a chance to gain points, because Richmond, it is a wild card of a race, with it being a short track event. We don't know really what we're going to see. It could be a race that is filled with doom and gloom for people. There could be a good rash of yellows, or we could see, like we've seen in the past here for Doghouse, where these guys keep it somewhat green for majority of the short track race. So it's going to be fun to watch how that all works out tonight. But let's say qualifying just rounded out now.
Qualifying's rounding out, and currently it looks like it's going to be Jamie Horn top of the board, 1 position ahead of Brandon 6, and Zach Millett going to be the driver in 3rd position after qualifying finishing up. These drivers also are going to be setting themselves into a 5-minute warm-up period where they're going to be finding themselves a little bit of time of extra practice, any small adjustments that are needed, and as well gives us a little bit more time to give you a preview into this race, because like we said, this is race number 8. We just came off of a week break where the drivers had a 2-race stint where it was dominated by Brandon 6, winning at New Hampshire and at Michigan those past 2 races. But the next 3 that we're entering starting tonight: Richmond, Kansas, Charlotte, the Charlotte Roval, going to be our next 3 races. So 3 very diverse racetracks that we're heading to, and I think that's going to be the fun thing to watch, Zach, especially with the points and the way that they're looking entering tonight. It's Brandon 6 with his 4 wins. He's got over 148 points over Brandon Bowie, but we do know with the point system, that fight is still alive, even with that what seems like a large gap.
No doubt. I mean, all it takes is just a slight mistake of, missing a race, really. You accidentally have something come up in life, and you miss a race, and that lead could evaporate for Brandon 6. So we'll see how that can work out. But I mean, guys like McMahon, Horn, Mormon, Stutzman, really a lot of them still have an opportunity, even down to Brian Dixon, to really have a chance for a championship. And long season still to go, but we'll see if anybody can start to make that climb.
And a lot of these drivers have had just strong, consistent finishes. Again, Brandon 6 has been the most dominant, most consistent driver so far, but you look at the rest of our top 5, they've all been finishing in the top 10 for most of these weeks, and excited to see how they continue on as We move from our point standings and we take a look at what the schedule has been like. Like I said, it's been all Brandon 6, 4 wins. He won the first 2 races. He's won the last 2. But it was that middle stage where we got to see that diversity of Shane Parrish, who, after getting his win, we have not seen that machine the rest of this season. Justin McMahon was on a tear there of almost going back-to-back and almost going for 3 in a row for himself, but only getting 1 win at Rockingham. And then that Daytona finish of Brian Dixon just finding a space to get the win. And it's been just the Brandon 6 show with a population of drivers that just show up, that sometimes have a marking to show whenever the 06 doesn't show up, or he just has an off race that we are expecting not to happen here tonight.
And we had an off week this week, so I'm interested to see what drivers have tuned up. An open setup league like this at Doghouse, a lot of times it does come down to what you have underneath you. You got to have the car that allows you to go out there and go win these races. So we'll see if anybody has cooked up anything this week and maybe dialed in their cars enough here for Richmond to have an opportunity.
And as well, we want to say thank you to the sponsors that help out here for the Doghouse Racing Leagues in general, and also primarily for the Cup Series. One of those for the title sponsor of the Doghouse Cup Series being Shoney's. If you're a part of the West Virginia location and you haven't tried out Shoney's yet, you should head on over to their many locations. They've been around since 1947. They are warm, friendly, delicious food, as well as just friendly service. So they want to give you some of the best that you can have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if you're going for breakfast, well, it's the place with best way to go, because they've got a legendary breakfast bar that you have to check out. Shoney's, delicious food, friendly service since 1947. Also, want to say thank you to True Patriot Apparel and Gifts. True Patriot Apparel and Gifts has been helping sponsor a lot of the races this season, as well as being a primary sponsor for some of the drivers out there on course. We create many different designs and various themes, including patriotic, Bigfoot, pets, and many more. Why not head over and check out their great selection with humor and sarcasm at TruePatriotShopUSA.com. And when purchasing, remember to use the promo code Doghouse10. That's Doghouse with the number 10 at the end to get 10% off on your order. Another great sponsor that's hopped on board with the season is SSR Designs. If you're looking to find yourself with an iRacing paint scheme to level up all on the track and make yourself look unique and special, go on over to SSR Designs on Facebook. Discuss your project ideas and try to bring it to life. Again, head on over to SSR Designs on Facebook to make your designs reality. And thank you to Butt Kicker. Feel what you've been missing. Butt Kicker is a well-known sponsor in the iRacing world. But if you want to head over to buttkicker.com, you can check out their variety of different items. Their most well-known is for their shaking box that you put onto your racing rig that allows you to feel the sounds instead of just hearing them. But back in the pandemic, it was all about how racers talked about how the feeling of racing was missing. Well, Butt Kicker helps you get that sensation back. Butt Kicker, feel what you've been missing. Also want to say thank you to Nap Daddy Racing Designs. If you couldn't find the designs you were looking for, you don't worry, check out what Nap Daddy Racing Designs has for you. Head on over to napdaddyracing.com and check out what your next design could look like. The warm-up is finished, qualifying is done, same for practice. It's time that what's left is racing here at Richmond. The lights click on, the drivers are gritting up, and it's time for race number 8 to begin here this evening. Once again, thank you so much to everyone that's joining with us here tonight on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. I know we've had a couple of technical errors to start the evening off. We hope that those get smoothed over as the night progresses, but here's going to be your starting grid for tonight's race. It's going to be Jamie Horn in the 98 machine, top of the board for himself, going to be finding that quick speed, and he needs a quick night to close in the gap in the points. Who's outside, though? It's the driver he's got to stay in front of. It's going to be the 06 of Brandon 6. Making his second race return in the third position, it's the 35 of Zach Millett. Also going to get in fourth place, has shown strength here at Richmond in the past. It's the 93 of Kevin Powell. Fifth position, we find the 71 of Adam Thompson, driver that's led the most laps here in the past, hoping for victory lane. We find in sixth place is the 12 of Andrew St. Also in seventh position, we find the 27 of Christopher Simon, driver that's going to be third in points entering this evening. Starting in 8th place, Justin McMahon. 9th place, we find Jonathan Smith, who's had a couple of decent runs these last couple of weeks, hoping for a good finish. Also hoping for a good finish will be starting in 10th place is the 8 machine of Christopher Leftwich.
Starting in 11th, it's going to be the 45 of Gary Clune. Alongside him in 12th, it's going to be the 9 of Stephen Bonomo. 13th in qualifying is going to go to the 43 of Eric Anderson, with 14th being held by the 58 of Nicholas Schnell. 15th is going to go to Eric Warman, with 16th going to Gary Armio. 17th in qualifying is going to be the 92 of Cameron King. Alongside him in 18th, it's going to be the 2 of Tony Martin. 19th in qualifying is going to go to the 60 of Mike Leftwich, and rounding out the top 20, it's going to be Mark Dumont.
In 21st, we find the 19 machine of Nicholas Atwood. 22nd position is the 41 of Andy Cork, a driver that's won this race in the past. Starting 23rd position, it's the 22 of Jeremiah Stutzman. Driver that's second in points, always struggles with qualifying, but we know he'll get up front at some point of this race. Starting 24th is the 54 of Brandon Bowie. Driver that's won this season, hoping to get a second win if possible. We find in 25th position in the 03 of Brian Dixon. Tyler Millette has been strong at short tracks in the past, but qualifying wasn't there for the 94. He'll be starting back in 26th position. With Bill Gentry going to be starting in 27th, Richard Leclerc in 28th, and finishing out our 29 drivers, it's Michael Dow. 29 drivers, Zach. That's quite a field that we're going to be having here this evening, but Richmond, tough task. You touched on it when we started the broadcast. A track that has potential of a lot of cautions coming out, that was shown last season, has 14 cautions at this race. But if we look at the other 3 times we were here, it was 3 to 6 cautions that were coming out during that race. So it really is an unknown what type of Richmond we're going to be having here tonight.
It is definitely the unknown, so to say. So it's going to be wild when we drop this green flag to see which drivers are going to take the risks here early, and those risks can sometimes lead to those yellow flag incidents. So that can be a telltale early sign of if we'll see those or we keep it green. And this place, if it gets strung out enough, it does have a tendency to go very long green flag here at Richmond. So we could see a long one underneath their hands. And I can tell you what, this place, these cars start to handle very, very toughly as the run goes on. So we'll see who's dialed it in here this week, got their car perfect, and we'll be able to handle the tire fall off that's ahead of them, because we saw in New Hampshire, just a couple weeks ago that, Brendan Six was strong, but also Jamie Horn, who's on pole, he was very, very fast there. I think he's going to have a good opportunity to get his first win of this season.
It's having a week off at a race like Richmond. It's so useful to have that extra time to dial in, like you said. But tonight's race, 180 laps. There is no stage break, no fast repairs, 3 extra sets of tires in pit road. Your fuel is only 70%. We'll see how the field can handle it, because lap number 1 in the race here tonight starts with Brandon Six, Jamie Horn up front. As they roar down into turn number 1, they stay equal side by side through turns 1 and 2. But it's the exit we're worried about. Who will slip and slide, or we keep it all together? And already they're slipping and sliding. It's going to be Eric Warman spinning around further on back, as everyone from 20th on back has to find a way to get around that 31 machine.
Oh, tough right there. Warman having such a great point season so far for himself. This early spin, I think, is going to hurt him a little bit here tonight. But what we're going to see here when we go back and look on this replay right here, this is going to be a classic theme here. Sometimes at Richmond, you want to get as low as possible there to get the grip. Got a little too low. Got that left front on the flat there of the apron. Got that car unwedged and loose, and very lucky that there wasn't more major contact there. It seemed like mostly light contact for majority of the field.
Light contact to 50 machine. We saw Dow just flying through there. So we're right on board with what the 50 saw. Dow started in last place. And seeing the driver trying to rack in front, you saw him shifting up into 4th. Down into turn number 1. And just from this point, if you got a 1 monitor setup, the visibility is low, and keep your foot in the throttle. A little bit of contact there, but the 50 able to scave away cleanly. The only driver with damage, was Dow. Required damage for the 50 because he hit right on the wheel well.
And that's the tough thing about this next gen sometimes, and even a little bit in the other stock cars too, that it just takes a slight tap sometimes, and just the gradual hits that can break the right side tires or the left side tires. And you can see that right front, it's just hanging on by a thread, so to say. So they're gonna get that fixed up, and hopefully it shouldn't go down too many laps here.
I don't know if we've got a replay of it, but Mike Leftwich had an incident entering pit road for himself. The 60 machine was trying to enter pit road, and there's the contact of him entering pit road. Just came in a little bit too hot and absolutely ruining the front end. He already had slight damage from that first incident. Here's going to be the replay as he's driving around trying to catch up to the field ahead of him. I mean, Zach, this is one of the odd things that you don't expect to see under pacing, but Richmond is one of the top 10 toughest tracks to get into pit road, and even under pacing, it's shown here.
It really is. It's a very narrow entry right here, and looks like just coming off the banking, he came off very aggressively. The car bounced with the stiff suspension, maybe even a little bit of rear brake bias to the rear to kind of help him in the corners. Didn't help him there coming off the apron, though. That's what spun Mike Leftwich around. So tough break for the 60, but looks like, oh man, I don't know what kind of penalty he got from that, but he had to get spun around.
Black flag penalty, finally able to get around. He had broke the front end. Bro, he got even more damage there, and just a tough start to the race for the 60 machine, who luckily did not get required damage because of the incident, but I had to spend a little bit of extra time in pit road as the rest of the field is stacked up and ready to get to racing action. We weren't able to complete our first lap of the race, but we'll give it another try here tonight. Again, this race is your Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series, Season 2 of 2024, race number 8 at Richmond, as it will be Jamie Horn, Brandon 6 up front into the restart zone as we are back to green flag action, and a lot of good runs on the drivers on the outside. Inside row, bit of a wheel spin for the 71 of Adam Thompson, but it's all Horn up ahead as a huge drive for himself and everyone else trying to hold steady off the exit turn 2, and already caution, trouble, and it's a big one. Multiple drivers piling in on the outside.
It might have been the 9 of Stephen Bonomo is where that started around there, Sam. And oh, actually, yeah, I think it was Leftwich and Bonomo coming together there on the incident. So wow, big incident here early.
You're going to be seen here just flying into the corner was Chris Leftwich. Over Chris and slides in Steve Bonomo. Bonomo nowhere to go, and then that creams more drivers down on the inside. It looked like Gary Clune, I believe the 4. It was another machine sliding. It was the 4 of Bill Gentry who was trying to slow down at that entry point, and it was actually the 23 of Jonathan Jennings and Gary Clune that get into one another after where the 8 and the 9 had their incident.
And you know, we're going to see a lot of this tonight. You see where Leftwich got in there too deep and lost the rear end, and a lot of what that is caused by is the D-shapedness of this oval. You know, it's got that D-shaped in it. You keep the wheel in it turned all the way around the front straightaway, and as you go into one, you have the wheel already turned. Braking, sometimes that can cause issues with not only locking up the fronts but also locking up the rears, and when you lock up the rear, that's what you see the case of what happened to Leftwich there. You just lose the rear end suddenly and have to chase the car up the track into people, and from there it's just going to be a chain reaction. So we're going to see that happen a lot here tonight, and that D-shaped oval is causing a lot of problems for these guys throughout the night.
I'm curious if we can go back on that incident and take another look from Gary Clune's cockpit and see what he saw, because the 45 was stuck in such a tough spot. It was either trust the opening was going to open up in that wreck or pull it down into the 23, and it just was not going to be the case of an opening popping up. As you ride on board with Clune here, you're going to see the incident build up in front of him. There goes the 8 sliding up, but Zach, this is that tough spot, cranks it down right in the 23, and that's what catches some drivers a few more into that incident. And it's one of those incidences where you don't know if that opening's going to build or do you have to react yourself.
It is so split second, you know. I mean, that call from the 4, if he stays straight, doesn't change his lane, he just T-bones the 8 of Leftwich. So that is the reason I think you're going to see him turn down, make that contact with the 23 of Smith, which kind of innocent bystander there, but it's just everybody trying to make it through that wreck, man. And when a wreck happens like that on a restart in the entry of the corner like that, it's kind of every man for himself as you scatter around the field.
Still in pit road is going to be the 50 machine of Dow, who I think shockingly that one contact in the wheel well has been so terminal to the 50. I was not expecting it to be this bad of damage for the 50 machine. I thought it was going to be one of those lower numbers, but again, sometimes those hit boxes where you hit perfectly on a car can ultimately just ruin your night, and you can have no way of recovering. And after our first 2 cautions of the day, still haven't completed a full lap just yet. But Steve Minomo, 2 laps down. Belgentry going to be 1 lap down, and Jonathan Smith 1 lap down. Bonomo still sits in pit road. Dow as well still sits in pit road, 7 laps down. Getting more service done is Gary Clune. Chris Leftwich has gotten repairs done and will be back out on track. And the rest of the field, take a deep breath and get ready for another restart, because we're stacking up and those lights are off. We're going this time around. I mean, Zach, we haven't ran enough really for these tires to be worn in, but they certainly have ran slow enough to where these tires are at temperatures you would never want them to be at.
They've definitely creeped down when it comes to that temperature, Sam. And you also put some heat cycles in, you know, just very split-second heat cycles, but it'll definitely have an effect. So we'll see if the restart here, the low grip levels lead to more issues, or will we get a little bit more strung out here as Horn trying to have another restart like last time was excellent, able to get the lead very decisively.
As Horn on the outside into the restart zone takes off immediately. Everyone else trying to get back into the throttle as quickly as they can, but it's going to be Jamie Horn clear to drop down in front of Brandon 6. He'll do so. Rest of the field, they get ready, sliding down into turn number 1. Drivers have succeeded on the entry. Exit of the corner. Will they make success? And it looks like they will for at least the first half of this race. The longest restart we've had so far. And lap 1 completed of Green Flag Racing goes to Jamie Horn. Rest of the field starting to already string out single file. This is exactly what we need to see from this field.
That is exactly right, Sam. Yeah, you want to see a single file a little bit right now. You're getting a little bit of a feel as Richard Leclerc, I think he's going around as he's trying to save it.
He's
but no,
back.
head first into the wall.
And it's Bonomo caught up in another one. And it's Nicholas Atwood also looking to get a little bit of damage involved in this thing as he was trying to get around. As the 17 just comes out a little bit too fast for Richard Leclerc, and it's going to be bringing out our 3rd caution of the day. And I got a feeling, Zach, we're having similar things we had earlier in the year for our first season of 2024. Richmond is going to be the toughest night of the season.
It's such a handful just to drive by yourself that I think it's just tough to race around your competitors without having a mistake. And Richard Leclerc here going down into 1, just similar to Leftwich, losing the rear on entry a little bit too deep, maybe a little too hard on the brake, and that's just going to be a tap there from the 19, and that's going to shove him head first up into the wall. Bonomo goes around 2 in the 9, and just tough breaks there for these drivers who were a couple already involved in a few incidents.
I think it's going to be Nicholas Atwood with required damage, as he's got similar right front damage to Dow, so he might be in pit road for quite a while for himself. As taking a ride and seeing what it's like, seeing this race kind of build up in front of you, and seeing this incident, I should say, build up in front of you, as Michael Dow has officially called it a night. Trying to stay high, almost gets into Warman. I believe this is going to be the 8 machine of Leftwich, and just seeing everyone slipping and sliding, slamming the brakes, and that small little tap, you'll take that. Escaping away is going to be the 8 machine of Christopher Leftwich. Those are those moments that you're like, whew, we got away with just a tap.
As you are breathing a big sigh of relief for sure, Sam. I mean, you could be Michael Dow. I mean, he's out of this race. He's actually disconnected, so that damage was much heavier than we were expecting as the guys raced off the exit of pit road to beat the pace car off. So just shows you sometimes you're able to get away with those hits and sometimes you're not.
As tonight's race still being led by Jamie Horn, and interesting looking back at these past races. Again, this is going to be the 5th time that the Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series is ran here at Richmond. First time they ran was back in season 2 of 2022. Back in 2022 and 2023, they ran 3 seasons each. And back in that season, they only had 3 cautions. It was Kevin Thompson that actually won that race. Then they had their 2nd race in 2023, where in season 1, Jeremiah Stutzman found himself in the victory lane. And both of those drivers only led 14 to 13 laps. The driver that led the most laps did not win that race. The only driver that's actually been able to lead the most laps and win, and also had the pole, was 2023 season 3 winner, and that was Jonathan Jennings, who was during his historic, just dominating run of winning almost every race for about 3 or 4 seasons. He was untouchable during that time. And Jamie Horn, he got the pole. He's been up front. This is exactly the combo that you're hoping for if you're that 98. And if these cautions keep on rattling down, you might be in the best standpoint moving forward until he has to make the inevitable pit stop at some point here tonight.
That's for sure. Pit stops are going to be inevitable. We also got a 70% fuel load, so it's going to be interesting. 180 laps here tonight. Don't think with that 70% fuel load, these guys will actually be able to stretch it out to 90 laps to make this, a one-stopper, so to say. Because, I mean, if they are able to do it, I think they'll be able to rely on the cautions maybe for now. If it keeps up at this rate, to maybe do that type of strategy. But we'll just have to stay on top of that, because at some point I imagine we will get a good long green run here.
You have to run a few laps there before that caution came out. We'll see if we can get a longer run here, as Jamie Horn going to be on the outside. Brandon 6-2 is inside. Not a lot of movement on positions for the field so far in our top 8 positions. Everyone else from around 10th on back have had some type of shakeup of gaining or losing. Let's see what we're going to gain here as we are back to green flag racing for race number 8 at Richmond. Horn with a great launch, but it's Kevin Powell who got a better launch on the outside, keeping it side by side with 6. But as they exit the corner, Brandon 6 with the better advantage. Everyone else, hold your breath, exit the corner. Who's going to survive, or will we see a spill? Looks like it's survival into turn 3.
Great job, everybody, getting out of 1 and 2 there as we go down to 3 and 4. Powell trying to hold on to 3rd position is Zach Millett in the bottom here in the 35, trying to work him over, but it was a great restart for the 93 that had him alongside the 06. Now fighting for that 4th position, but I think the 35 of Millett almost able to clear, but that outside line always able to fight back on that outside on the straightaways.
It's always interesting when you can find the outside row working. I know a few years ago, the outside lane actually was pretty dominant at times, but the inside row always has been the consistent go route. It's been a 1-lane course for so long here at Richmond. It's curious on whenever iRacing makes a tire or surface change that gives a chance for the rest of the field. But up front, everyone keeping it close to one another instead of our top 8. It's 9th on back, where things are looking a little bit more treacherous for the field, as they've got a gaggle of cars 3 wide for 14th, 15th, and 16th place as they enter down into turn number 1. If we're going to see a caution, it's going to be further on back, as up front they're looking pretty clean for the rest of the field.
And that 04.
Oh, there we go.
03.
Oh, 14. And right back into the field as everyone else has to scatter. And there is going to be the big one. It's the 14 of Mark Dumont. Instead of throwing it down and just taking his race out for himself, came back up into the field, and everyone else had to be collected into that mess.
Such a tough break for a few of these drivers caught up in this one right here. Is Dumont just going to go around, and it's so easy to do off of 2. There's a little bit of a hump, so to say, like a bump there on the exit that you run up over, and he got over it, lost the rear end, and like you said, when he went to go save it, that's the issue, is he just a little too long on the counter steer, and it just hooked up those front tires, and it counter steers right back up across the track in front of everybody. That's where a lot of your damage is going to occur to people that go down into the inside walls. Get this look at it.
There's many different ways to try to save this next-gen car, but I feel like trying to steer your way out of a wreck is probably the hardest way to do it. Trying to maybe hold down the brake seems to be the most tried and true way to save these losing next-gen vehicles, but hard contact for Bowie there. One driver with required damage is going to be Eric Warman's forced to pit road, and it's going to be Mark Dumont still out on track for the 14, even with being involved in that wreck, which, I mean, Zach, I feel like we've noted on this for many seasons with the next-gen car. It is the toughest vehicle to save, I think, of any of the iRacing vehicles that you could try to race.
And I think that was a good classic example of it right there, because you go to save this race car and it bites you so fast. And kind of like you said, it's almost a race car that sometimes you can't save with really the counter steer. And if you do save with the counter steer, you have to be very quick with it, because this thing flip-flops from one end to the other. It goes from loose to tight to really you don't know what's going to happen. So I think that's what really makes things very tough. You also have, of course, the way these cars are set up with the underfloor. There's no other race car out there on the stock car surface that has, this type of aero. We're depending on the air underneath the car instead of on top of the car. So there's all these wild things. When you get a little bit sideways, you get less air to the underfloor. So it just takes away your downforce even more. So it's one of those things that this car has brought with the changes it has to it, and it definitely makes it very difficult to drive when you got to put that car on the ragged edge to have that speed.
And for the audience members that are watching, you might be wondering, well, we've had so many cautions. Are we ever going to get green flag racing? Richmond's kind of known for one of those racetracks where there is a limit that we hit on wrecks, where we'll finally get a green flag run. The question is when, and when it happens, are any of the front runners have already pitted and are stuck deeper in the field? That's that weird combo that you're always playing the games here at Richmond of, usually if they're going to have a lot of cautions, it's either in the beginning or it's at the end of the race. The middle portion is where we get that green flag run. But when do you make that pit stop's always that game that I feel like, Zach, every driver just dreads making that decision, especially when you're in Horn or Six or Millet's decision of you're up front, you're in the best place to be, but that decision to put yourself out in risk is just terrible to make.
It is, you know, that's one thing as a driver myself. I know being in situations like this before when you're out front in front of the field, the decision to, you know, throw away that track position and come down to pit road and stick to a strategy you think, it is gut-wrenching, so to say the least. It makes you very, very nervous, and it's way, way, way more overthinking than you would have if you were under green flag conditions, because you're focusing on the driving. While you're out there under caution, it's all about strategy and how can we make this race, you know, different and make it the fastest possible. So we'll see who nails it and see who gets it wrong, because it's very easy to do when there's a rash of yellows.
See drivers that had to stay in pit road for extended time, try to catch up to the field. Mark Dumont was given an end-of-the-line penalty, so he'll start further on back. But up front, it is a perfect launch for Jamie Horn over a car and length and a half ahead of Six as they go into turn number 1. And no one's even close to the 98 until the exit out of the corner, where Six just looks so much stronger than Horn. But the rest of the field, they hold their breath for another lap. We make it through turn 2 as they head into turn number 3.
Jamie Horn, excellent on another restart there. Is just going to be Kevin Powell back there battling it up. It looks like he'll lose that third spot, as though he actually does fight back to the outside of the 35 Millet. But right now we're looking at the 24, the winner from Rockingham, fighting with the 12 of Andrew St. Croix. Here's McMahon trying to take advantage of the inside line, but St. Croix here trying to move himself farther forward, as it looks like he's fighting for that 6th position.
Further on back in that picture, you saw Tony Martin struggling for the 2 machine as he's trying to make his way into the top 10 if possible, as he's being swarmed behind the exit of these corners. So tough for these drivers. That wall kind of sticks out on the exit of turn 2 and forces drivers to back out. And it's going to be the 03 of Ryan Dixon who gets the better run. He'll be side by side with Martin as they go through 3 and 4. Again, just that worry of a little wiggle. Even as we ride on board with Martin, you can just sense that 2 not feeling stable as Armio backs out, but losing ground's going to be Shell in the 58 machine.
Little driver's losing big speed there. Is now the 2, yeah, just not able to get back to the throttle. The 8 of Chris Leftwich, he's going to dive to the inside here, down the back straightaway, and he's going to go to the inside as the 58 Schnell getting back up to speed. He's going to have Stutzman on his outside just behind the 2 and the 8. So drivers right now have taken advantage of the tires and making passes while they have green flag laps.
As we are green at this moment up front, everyone's single filed out for the majority. Its first side-by-side is this picture that we're seeing for 14th place. It's Jeremiah Stutzman trying to get by Tony Martin. Stutzman, winner of this race back in 2023 season 1. That race had 6 cautions in total, and Jeremiah Stutzman only led 13 laps of the 177 that day. Hoping to maybe make the climb forward, get a good finish here this evening, as behind them, the 41, that's going to be Andy Cork, almost just driving up into Clune and forcing him up into the outside. 41 backs out of that fight. He'll try to resettle down into turn number 1 off the exit of 4 here, as the field starting to string out a little bit more. And this is that part of the race where we always hope that they can string out, give some space to one another. But here's that gaggle that we're worried about that could potentially bring out a caution, as on the backstretch, Tony Martin gets out of control in the 2. He'll stay low as we continue to stay green.
Ooh, yeah, Tony Martin is slow, but he's going to keep it straight at least for the time being and get it back going. But yeah, this group in here, you got Brandon Pooey, you got Panomo, a lot of them back here from 27th position on back, and they're about 12 seconds back from our leader. So these guys all right now just mixed up together trying to solve it, and sometimes it's always so awkward being back here in this farther group, because you want to be easy, but also you don't want to lose a lot of time.
And it also doesn't help that the majority of these drivers dealing with damage that they collect in those first handful of cautions that popped up in the first 20 laps. And Also dealing with ill handling car on top of this track not feeling as smooth as when the car was at 100% working abilities. Now they're going to be trying to sort their own businesses out. They will do so as now we move further up ahead, just inside of our top 10. In 7th place, we find Andrew St. Cour, who's trying to catch up to Justin McMahon, who we right on board with the 12 Twisted Axle machine.
And Justin McMahon got that pass done on that restart, and this 12 one step back. St. Cour he wants to win this season. That's what I think really is on the mind of this 12, because it's not been the most consistent season. Had a few hiccups here and there, and I think he wants to get back to those winning ways. And right now could be his good opportunity here tonight, as early in the going, showing good speed here in the top 7.
Yeah, I mean, for this 12 machine, he's only ran 5 times this season, so he's missed 2 races entering tonight, and he's been keeping the nose out of trouble when he's racing, but the laps led, the wins, they just have not been there, with only 2 top 5s of those 5 races, 4 top 10s, so at least inside of the top 10, but he hasn't showed up for enough races, which hurt him last season on hunting for that championship. As we look back at some other battles that are happening on course, here's the 8 machine of Leftwich, as well as the 22 of Stutzman, and Stutzman, good run, 22, able to complete the pass as they head down into turn number 1.
Great job to get that pass done, as now the 8's going to try to fight back in the middle, but just can't get back to that quarter panel. So we're going to have to give that 13th position up to the 22. Stutzman will try to continue his trajectory forward. Is right behind this group. We got Snell, who had a big moment there for a moment and also had speed, so that dropped him back to 15. So we'll see if he can regain some of that. But at the moment, it's Leftwich just sending it to the outside of the 22 there.
And I'm thinking back to some of the early races last season. It was our first time really watching these drivers in the Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series. Chris Leftwich was the most aggressive driver that I think we watched in those early races, and the 8 machine, proving it when he's got a fast vehicle. He feels like he's stronger than the ones in front of him. He's willing to just ship that thing into the corner and trust the vehicle will just stick, and he'll be able to make the pass. Not able to work that go around. He'll have to resettle again back here in 14th position. Up front, it's kind of equal distance that we're starting to see from our drivers from 1st back to 5th place. Everyone some pretty equal distance between one another. Some of the biggest differences from the 25 of Millet back to Kevin Powell, but up front it is Brandon 6, Millet, but up front leading this race, Jamie Horn. And Zach, this is a good sign for that 98 in the early goings of this first long green flag run.
It really is showing already good strength here as the tire pressures start to build up, and we'll see if he can start to walk away. And Richmond, it is a short track, but it is a track we actually are at a very high speed on the entry of these corners, and that is going to make clean air very, very important. So you, Jamie Horn, you don't want to give that up, and you want to also manage your tires. So I think right now he's doing a good job of keeping the pace strong enough to where the 06 is not within distance to take a chance at him, but also not too fast to be able to work the tires in gradually. Right now, Millet looking pretty strong, a little bit faster than both the 2 ahead of him the time before.
And for Jamie Horn, the short tracks has really been his strength at the start of races. His best qualifying attempts have been at this course as they're catching up to Bill Gentry in front of our leaders. The 98 will make the pass by the 4 machine. But looking at the start of races, I mean, most of the races, Jamie Horn has qualified inside of the top 10. 4 of the races this season have been inside of the top 5, with those 2 best starts. Second at going to be at New Hampshire, and then 3rd at Rockingham. But his best finish of the season going to be 3rd place at Indianapolis. So the bigger tracks have been the better finishes, the better starts have been at the short tracks. We'll see if that can be turned around for Horn here this evening, as he still leads 48 of our 180 so far here this evening.
He's done a good job right now for sure, and he's starting to open the gap up just a tiny bit as we drop back here to this group. It's like Gary Clune back here in 16th. He's got Brandon Bowie right there in the 17th position with Andy Cork, as Bowie's continuing his little bit of his charge back forward after being involved in that incident. So he's up to the 17th position now, going to set his sights on that 45 of Clune. Looks like Schnell, he's going to get to the inside of the 8 of Leftwich.
Leftwich's aggression of trying to make some big passes on drivers has made him slow down and be caught by this grouping behind. But a good weight and delay. Went with that later apex and higher to get a better straightaway speed, and it's worked out for the 8 machine to set up this pass off the exit of turn 2. They'll drag race down into turn number 3 between Shell and the 8 of Leftwich. And it's going to be that pink, white, and black machine on the outside, scraping the wall. Leftwich has a great chance to complete this pass and take back 14th position. And it will work out as Shell will stay high. Tony Martin, Clune, Bowie, all closing in. And this grouping of drivers now all on top of one another.
Definitely all still on top of one another. There's that 8 left, which been trying different lines. The 58 had a big one to the outside there, but almost got into the wall. So that was a wild moment. There's the 8 holds on for now. As here comes the 2 of Tony Martin. He's on fresher set of tires there. He's already went the pit road.
Oh boy.
Oh, 3 wide.
3 wide. Tony Martin with a little bit of contact into Shell. They're going to have to back out of that one. Both drivers got wiggly and allows the 8 to complete and hold that pass, but should have been a pass for the 58 and the 2, but 3 wide on the exit's never going to work here at Richmond. Instead, it's Brandon Bowie. He'll take the advantage, but the 8 machine once again just complete slowdown, almost come to a complete stop in the center of the corner. It's now enabling him to have the better launch off the exit, but man, it's scary to follow a driver with an unpredictable run through these corners.
Yeah, he is very, very slow through the center and just really trying to get the best run up off. And yeah, it makes it tough for his competitors around him, because look at this, slows it way up. And look, he slowed it up so much there that he lost a good chunk of time. So yeah, that line, definitely interesting, and it works, but you just got to get it right.
Yeah, it works for drivers that don't have a good exit, but if a driver does have a decent exit, it just backfires for this 8 machine, and now Leftwich has lost those 3 positions. He'll fall to 16th place as the lap down driver, Tony Martin, able to conquer and make that pass. Other battles are happening on course. This is actually for 9th and 10th place position, as you've got Cameron King in the 92 and the 94 of Tyler Millette racing around one another and slowly being ran down by Brian Dixon, Armio, and Stutzman, as Cameron King's been having a decent run in the early goings of these races the last few weeks. It's been the finishes that he's been struggling with. As we take a look at Stutzman, as he was able to watch the 7 of Armio have a struggle there off of 2.
That he was able to watch that big moment for sure there, and now he's going to set his sights on the 03 of Brian Dixon, and was a good 10th quicker and even quicker than Millette ahead. So we'll see if Stutzman can maybe make his way up into the top 10, as right now the lap times are starting to fade, and from that fade, we're starting to actually see some closing distance between our leaders as they got in the lap traffic with the 19 of Nicholas Atwood.
Yeah, lap traffic has really been hurting Jamie Horn. Remember, that gap was almost up to over a half a second. It's been cut in half with trying to get by the 9 machine of Stephen Bonomo and also now Atwood. Atwood staying high. The big thing that hurts these drivers, especially at short tracks, is the timing. It's not that the lap cars aren't trying to get out of the way. It's just they're slow, and sometimes you catch them at bad spots. And Zach, I mean, it seems like that's what we're seeing. Bad spots is where the lap cars are being caught by our leaders.
That they are, yeah. It's tough because as a lap car, you're trying not to, make it too hard on the leaders, but you're also not trying to make it too easy. You can't just go out there and just run around and give up time. And, if you're Atwood, you now want to just try to stay on that lucky dog position, but you see Eric Anderson not too far ahead of our leader. So that definitely concerns the likes of the 19. So there's always a thought on the mind of a few of these drivers, but we're seeing right now the 98, after he's got a little clear room, he's been able to open it up just a little bit, but just showing us right now it's very close between our top 3, and really even Kevin Powell is able to keep pace. Same with Adam Thompson.
And once we see Horn get by Eric Anderson, this race is going to get a little bit more interesting, because we're getting to these packs of lap cars that our leaders will catch up to in the next 5 to 10 laps. Those drivers I'm curious about is from 16th back to 21st position. Those drivers are really on top of one another, and we're seeing Horn. He's catching up to those packs of drivers that are right on top of one another. You've got to be quick, efficient. Otherwise, Brandon Six and Millet will find a way to capitalize on having any struggle with lap traffic.
That's very, very true. Yeah, if you have a struggle with lap traffic, the drivers behind you can be really, really taking advantage of it. So we'll see how Horn can attack this, as right now going forward with the first one up going to be the 60 of Mike Leftwich, and like you said, after about a half second. You got Eric Anderson, Christopher Leftwich, who actually is hitting pit road right now, Andy Core, Gary Kloon, Jonathan Smith, all those drivers grouped right up together up in front of us.
And I don't know if maybe there was a mechanical error or there was something just wrong with Chris Leftwich, but he's just automatically sped into pit road, entry right into his box. He's going to take, I think, over a minute hold into the pit road. The 8 machine, that is not the way that he was hoping to exit out of the course there that quickly. But he's just going to have to take those penalties. We'll see if the 8 decides to get back out on track. Otherwise, that helps Horn to have one less driver get by. But the grouping is still all on top of one another, as he's also going to be catching up to Bill Gentry, who Tyler Horn just lapped this Ford machine just about 15 laps ago.
That he did, and man, I'll tell you what, too, also, great job by Jamie Horn there to build a little bit of a gap there back to Brandon 6 right before they got the traffic here, because you want to have a little bit of breathing room just so you don't have to take too big of risks here. Horn already to the inside here, looking down on the 4 of Bill Gentry, and he'll get that pass done here. Gentry again, 11 laps down now, and so we going by him. Eric Anderson will be next on that list, but you know those drivers all ahead of them are running for their life.
You got 4 drivers all racing against one another for position, but also trying to stay on the lead lap. The question will loom, who's in the mentality of, oh, the leader's behind me, I'm getting out of the way? Or is it, I know the leader's behind me, but I cannot lose touch of the drivers in front?
It's always a tough decision when you're one of these lap drivers, because you know you don't want to cause a ruckus to the drivers, but you're also racing for position. You know, if you just lift here and let the 98 by, you give up seconds of precious time to drivers that you're pretty close to pace on, that you would maybe be able to race later in the race if you wouldn't get in the spot. So we'll see right now what these drivers do, but it's racing hard ahead of him. He's Court in the 41. He's to the inside of the 45 Kloon, and this is the worst case scenario for Jamie Horn, is they're side by side.
Luckily, Horn built up that gap, but you got to make sure that if they have troubles in front of you, you're not involved with it. Andy Cork, as well as Kloon, going to be side by side. Eric Anderson going to be on the inside row. Horn decides to go with the opening on the outside row. I don't think that's the better place to be, as the 98 will just have to follow in suit. As Cork gets a little wiggly on the outside, we will be side by side with our leader and Anderson as we head down into turn 1. Cork just ships it into turn 1. The 41 completely misses, and Anderson takes advantage over Kloon. They'll be side by side. Let's almost go 3 wide into turn number 3. Horn does take that advantage, pushes the 43 high, and will be able to force the 43 ahead of Kloon. And all that lost time, 6 gets pushed down to 3rd, Millet up to 2nd, and that 35 is right on the back bumper of this grouping. He now tries to set his sights, get by the lap cars.
Just shows you how much time you can lose by racing lap cars. A second of time just disappeared there before our eyes, and Millet within a lap car right in front of him of Jamie Horn, and Horn's going to try his best here to run back away, but that is such a wild scene to show you that how you get through lap traffic is so critical, and it's just sometimes how you catch them.
And forcing the hand of the drivers around. I don't think Eric Anderson ever thought about trying to put the pressure to get by Kloon and as well Cork in that aggression of a manner, but you know, it worked out for that 43 in the better hand, because now with the leaders getting by those 2, Eric Anderson's showing some decent pace in front of our leader, still a tenth slower than what Horn is running currently, and 2 tenths slower than what Millet's at this current moment. But I can say Eric Anderson's doing a perfect job of staying in front of our leaders and doing everything that's in his power that he is able to do to fight to stay on the lead lap, as this is a battle going on for 4th place, as Kevin Powell has been trying to stay ahead and keep Eric Warman in between himself and also Andrew St. Clair, who's slowly catching up to this 4th place position.
This lap traffic's getting wild too. Like you said, it's starting to mix up the top 5. And Powell, like you said, trying to get by. His Court going to go low there. Powell going to go around the outside. Is now St. Clair. He's going to have to find his way around 2 lap cars now between him and the 93. So right now, lap traffic at a short track playing out beautifully here as the 45 Kloon is the 41, almost up into the 31. Andy Cork having a tough time keeping his car in his line.
And the big thing, I think, for Cork is he's trying to run similar lanes that if he was in the regular driving path. He's just really aggressive into turn 1. I think he needs to slow down just a little bit sooner, but maybe feeling that pressure of the leaders right on the 41's back bumper, costing some time, forcing his hand to do moves that he would not traditionally do. And the 41 finally going to be passed, but still in touching distance. to Gary Clune. So 18th place is still able to be grabbed for Andy Cork, even with all the ups and downs he just went through, as our leader of Horn has been able to get some spacing to work with. That gap is still up to a half a second, but other battles that are closer than you would think. Starting to see a little bit of a close battle for 12th position, as well as 13th and 14th. This grouping of drivers are on top of one another. That's going to be Brian Dixon, Gary Armio, and Brandon Bowie, all closing in for that 12th place position.
And you know, it's wild. I've been paying attention to Bowie just to see how much time he's gaining. You know, he's normal front runner by being in second place in points. He's actually, through the whole sequence of the lap car sequence, he actually gained about a second round leader. So he's done a good job here. He's caught up to this duo here. And now going to set his sights on the 7 of Gary Armio and 03 of Brian Dixon. I mean, we'll see how Bowie can get this done, but he's definitely been a little bit quicker here these last few laps.
As Gary Armio is doing everything in his power to stay attached to the 03 of Dixon, and it's been impressive. You see the front end damage both on the 7 and the 54. Caught up in those first handful of cautions in the first 20 laps of this race, and even with the damage, fighting for some decent finishes for the both of them, of Bowie and as well Armio thinking about going down below, attempt to go for this pass as the 03 stays high. Bowie will follow in suit with this Bowie Esports teammate and getting the better run off the exit of the corner as they go down in turn number 1. You can just see that massive run from that second row on this late run that we're on. That was impressive to see by the 54 and the 03, but that outside row does not work off the exit 2.
No, it does not. Yeah, sometimes it's just you get up there, you get a little too high, and you lose all front grip. There's all the 7 losing rear grip there off the 4. Very common to see that, but he tries to run away as Bowie's got around his teammate Brian Dixon, like you said. Now sets his sight on the 7. But Armio, good job there not to, let the 03 kind of play him into a position of just letting the 54 go around him easily, and he's going to get at least one position out of this.
If you're just joining us now, 81 laps are in the books, and a couple of drivers starting to lose the rear end. Old tires for some, others making decision to go to pit road here on lap 80. One of those actually is Justin McMahon. He was inside of our top 10. The 24 going to be our first of our front runners to hit pit road. I mean, Zach, this seems a little bit earlier than you would expect, especially with all those cautions that we had, but the 24, maybe a one stop from here to the end. That's a long way to go for over 100 laps.
It definitely concerns me to, the one stop for him for sure. Yeah, that's it makes things tough. As now it looks like Clune, he's pulling low. Looks like maybe he's coming to pit road too. So we might be getting to the extent of a few of these guys' fuel window. And if you can't get past, in my opinion, if you can't get past really the 100 lap mark, then you're going to have a big time trouble of making it to the end of this race, because if you can only make it to 90, those cautions helped you get there. So you're not.
Oh no, there's the caution, and it's Andy Cork in the 41 going around off the exit of turn 2 and into the back stretch, just could not save it and spins out in the entry turn 3, and that caution is exactly what Justin McMahon did not want to see.
That is the worst time for guys who pit, but we'll see how it all played out for Cork. I think it'll be next time around for him off of 2. He's going to have some big issues, and this is kind of what I thought we'd see tonight. A lot of people, who just maybe didn't hit the balance perfectly, they'd be struggling off of 2 because of how much rear grip you lose in this car as the run goes on. Right here, rear end going to step out. He's going to try to save that thing as it goes down towards the pit wall. He almost clips the inside wall, corrects it, and that's their head first into the barriers. It's just going to be a narrow miss for a few other drivers.
As we get right along with what Andy Cork was feeling, again, was one of those drivers that we saw when our leaders were catching up. Very aggressive on the tires there when he was around competition, trying his best to keep that speed rolling, but the tires just were not there. And it just is a helpless feeling as he goes drifting, hits the wall. And I mean, you could even see in the hands, Zach, he kind of felt helpless. He was just trying to guide the car, but the car was going everywhere it wanted to go besides where the driver wanted it.
Helpless is a good way of describing it, because it's exactly how it feels for someone like that. So tough ordeal, and we'll see how they can work on that car there, because that thing is definitely destroyed after that hit, and I'm pretty sure engine done for the night. So gonna be tough for him to get back out there.
Certainly will. But for us here tonight, I think it'll be a perfect time for us to take our first commercial break of the evening. When we come back, it is going to be the second half of the race. First half, the first handful of cautions. We're right in those first 30 laps. But how much more green flag racing will we see? We'll find out right after this with more Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series action for race number 8 here at Richmond. We'll be back right after this. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, after seeing that Andy Cork wreck that brought out, and we'll see another caution potentially here as Atwood goes around. More drivers spinning around. Tyler Millette slow on the backstretch. No yellow flag is thrown for either incident. We continue to stay green. But wow, we're going to see those cautions that we're going to be ballooning out, especially with seeing Atwood spin. And there's another caution, and it's up front. It's going to be Andrew St. Cyr that goes around.
Oh no. That is such a tough break there as Andrew St. Cyr running so good, was working his way into the top 5, looking good on the long run pace, and just going to get caught off guard here off on 4. And this mistake here he makes, Sam, when we go back and look on the replay, so easy to make. Again, it kind of alludes to how tough it is to catch these next-gen race cars. But off of 4, you always seem to really just be fighting disaster with the D-shaped oval, where you just always have some wheeling. You're turning all the way around the front straightaway, so you're trying to put the power down, try to get the car to go forward, and all of a sudden that right rear starts to kick out, and St. Cyr just trying to hang on. Good job by him, just dabbing the brake there, locking it down, because that could have been so much worse. He just overcorrected back in front of the field. He locks it down, and he's still going to have a live to fight another day, pretty much.
Yeah, it's keeping yourself from being hit and also having other drivers avoid you. Big positives to take away, but again, the word of the day, helpless. When you just get in the throttle too soon, it just throws the car away. In that changing zone of when to get to the throttle, I mean, Zach, it's just the smallest of margins that you cannot see visibly where you're supposed to really hit. It's just based off of the car's weight that sometimes you've had that feeling where it's good. Other times, you gotta wait an extra half a second before you're really truly clear to take off.
And the cold tires even too, we're just right there straight off a restart. Cold tires, you're used to the old tires that were very worn out, and these tires can give you a false sense of hope. That's really the one thing I say that they give more than anything is you go off into the corner and it just amazing grip. It just feels like everything is working. And then last second before you know it, as the tire hits its grip limit, you don't even notice it. It slips out and you wreck. You're like, what happened? It's just usually a lot of times this tire's just not up to temperature, just very cold and still not in the prime condition to have that full grip load that you need. So it's tough and it really catches you off guard. But I think someone like a St. Core who just came down, got service done, I think he's got an opportunity still with this car to fight his way back up possibly to a top 5.
Luckily, we just got crossed over into the second half of this race. Unlucky, you're in traffic where the danger has been all night long. And also with that caution flag coming out, it helps out Nicholas Atwood, who had his spin that didn't bring out a caution, and then also Tyler Millette, who was extremely slow and lost over 7 positions with his issues off of turn 4. And yeah, I mean, it's just been one of those nights that's very similar to last season earlier in the year, where it just felt like it was a non-stop issue of drivers just not able to really have that acceleration point where they feel the most comfortable. The exit of the corners just biting everyone here tonight. Even proved there up front, it's not even safe.
It really is. You're never safe, and it can catch you off guard so fast. And that's why you gotta credit a lot of these drivers on these restarts for getting it right, because it very well could be happening to anybody. I mean, all it takes is just one little lapse of judgment, and it's so fast. It happens so fast that you don't even know it. So it's kind of, you got to expect it before it happens. So predict the future and you'll be ahead of it supposedly, and you'll be fine. But sometimes it's hard to do that.
Certainly is, as the field is waiting for the 1 to go marker. That's when the pace car lights turn off. But if you've been enjoying the broadcast here this evening, we got plenty of other great coverage throughout the weeks that we are here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Next week is the conclusion Tuesday night of the Challenger Racing League, as 4 drivers hunt their way into Phoenix to see who will come away as the Season 1 champion of the Challenger Racing League at the next gen. Those drivers have been fighting and clawing for the last few weeks to figure out who's going to be the final 4, and it's going to be a fun race to watch with some of the favorites to win the race, not the favorites to win the championship, but it's going to be a fun one. WSSR on Wednesday night, they are finally back for Season 10, coming off of an incredible finish of Cody Reed taking the win at Atlanta last night. Hey, you might want to watch more of that racing next week as they head to Pocono. For us, though, we're back to Green Flag Racing. It's Jamie Horn, Brandon 6, our usuals up front, and it's Brandon 6, a much cleaner restart. He's going to be there as they drag race into turn number 1. Brandon 6 wants the lead, and he has it off the exit of turn 2, but he gets loose, he gets wiggled, and Horn's right back on the outside. Horn takes back the lead. Oh no, 6 had it, but throttled up too soon.
Oh, he tried everything in his arsenal to get that done. He knew if he could clear the 98, he could be in control of the race and have the clean air. He wanted it, and it just slipped away from him that fast. But great save by him there. It could have been disaster for him, but he saves that car. Holds on the second. Horn back out front, though.
As Horn is able to hold steady, he'll try to just keep the pace, figure out how to save these tires moving forward. Everyone else in the middle of the field still side by side from all the drivers from 8th on back. You got Shell and Dixon side by side for 8th place. 10th place is between King and Stutzman. 12th is between Millette and Eric Anderson, and it just continues on all the way back to around 18th position, where they're still side by side. You see Tyler King and Stutzman, a little bit of a squeeze through the center of the corner, and the one driver that's been on the move is going to be Andrew St. Cour. He's already up to 16th place, but he's catching up to this wall of drivers that are side by side.
St. Cour trying to rebound after that spin there off the exit of 4. We're now seeing the whole field pretty much ahead of his. We'll try everything that's bound to get done. And the big thing for right now for St. Cour, he's about 2 seconds away from drivers for position. Because right now he's going to look to the inside. This is Bonomo, who's 6 laps down. Got Tony Martin ahead of him, who's 2 laps down. Leftwich 1 lap down. So for St. Cour, he's coming over from the back with Tony Martin trying to hold on, and he's going to just about save that thing and keep it straight. So good job by Martin, but he's had a few scares tonight off the 2.
did a great job, slammed the brakes, locked down those tires, it straightened the 2 out, stayed away from that inside wall, and continues to fight for another day. Those tires are going to be a little bit warm, so he's got to take it easy. But the drivers that aren't taking it easy are up here in that 8th place position on back, and almost thinking about 3 wide. It is going to be 3 wide. Brandon Bowie just shipping it down there for 14th place, trying to get by Eric Anderson and Warman, and will do so as Anderson backs out of that fight. And it's those aggressive moves by the faster drivers that enables them to take these spots away. It's the later run, though, of how much wear and tear are these big moves taken away is looks like going to be McMahon brushing the wall off the exit of the corner, and Bowie will take advantage to stay side by side with the 24.
Bowie looking to the inside here, and great exit off the forward, like Millette up ahead. Had a pretty good night here. He's Kevin right around the fringe of the top 10 here, but he's got a defensive forward look to the inside, and there's a lot of sparks flying because there's cars ahead are having mistakes, as it's going to be a slow car ahead of him, Nicholas Snell.
Chanel was a driver that blinked out going into turn number 1. It looked like it was a mechanical error that pushed him out of the server for a quick moment. He's back out there on track, but it lost him a lot of momentum off of 2. Another 58 holds his breath that it doesn't happen again with having competition all around in this such critical moment on lap 105. And see Bowie getting around. Eric Warman trying his best to get through. And for Warman, 10 laps down, mixing and mingling with these drivers that are inside the top 10, just proving if the 31 wasn't caught up with earlier incidences, he could have been a threat for a top 10 finish, but now will just fight and claw to try to unlap himself the hard way as he gets underneath the 12th place runner of Nick Lachelle.
It's so tough when you're in that position. Just, try to fight and claw your way back forward, but you just gotta fight people who are fighting for positions, so it's always tough to do that. But right now, everybody's trying to single file and get another good long green run here as St. Cour continuing his charge back forward. As it's going to be Millette now, who's going to be actually a pass for position.
Oh, McMahon coming back over the field, right in front of St. Cour, locks it down. Cour gets by, others as well, and that could have been a lot worse.
I mean, amazing job by McMahon there. Everybody getting through that, locks it down like you said, Sam, and that was the critical thing. If he doesn't lock that down, there's a couple cars heading to the hauler right there.
And we'll see another look at this. Once again, it's those front runners just getting a little bit more confident. And I don't know if that was reacting to Chanel who had that issue, but the lockdown with the 24, seeing that he's sliding up, gasses up for a quick moment, but luckily gets hard on the brakes again to give enough space for Mike Leftwich to just sneak his way by. And that could have been, again, a lot worse. Luckily, the 60 had plenty of space, but again, I don't know if that was reacting to around where the 58 was, or if that was just getting on the throttle too soon.
It is tough to say right here. We'll see from this look from Mike Leftwich to see what it's going to look like from his on-board point of view, but it's always tough to say what exactly is the cause of it. Is man, he's just going to squeeze by. Great job slowing down and staying out of the wall too to get by McMahon.
The hindsight of maybe you should have pulled down to go underneath him, but the trust of there's going to be an opening is always baffling. Of how drivers just say there's got to be an opening here when you put your vehicle in certain spots.
Definitely one of those situations where you pick and choose, and you hope the one you pick went your way, and it seems to be going that way for Leftwich. So great to see him get through that. And again, great job again for McMahon locking that down. That could have just been so much more worse, and everybody played their part perfectly there and kept that from being a major incident.
Now here, Zach, this is those games I was talking about in those early 40 laps of this race. When would be the perfect time to pit late to be your last time to go into pit road? Well, it seems like from 5th on back, they've all made their decision. It's now led by the 35, Zach Millett. Going to be having also Adam Thompson, Christopher Simon, Gary Armio, and everyone else from 5th all the way down to 19th. Just came into pit road to get tires, fuel, some repairs, but it's your top 4 staying out. Jamie Horn, Brandon 6, Jeremiah Stutzman, and Mark Dumont staying out on track. They got 25 lap older tires, so the tires shouldn't be too big of a difference, but it's the later in this race decision of when you have to go into pit road, because it is very questionable if those top 4 drivers can make it to the end of this race if we stay green.
That's exactly right. And it also, that makes where 5th on back can make it. And a lot of these drivers with them hitting pit road here now, these top four, if they hit pit road here in a caution or two later, if we get one, they're going to be in a big trouble where a lot of these drivers are going to stay out probably. So they're going to lose a ton of track position. So it's not like you're going to drive from, for Millet, he lost a little bit of track position, really lost only 2 positions out of this. So it was a net gain in my book for him, where if you're Brandon Six or you're Jamie Horn and you pit here a couple cautions later, you may be losing a net of 10, 15 positions.
I'm just concerned about the speed difference we're also going to see from some of these drivers. I think Horn and Six are going to be okay, but Jeremiah Stutzman, Mark Dumont, they've been in the middle of the field around that 14th, 15th section, and they have been off the pace of our leaders. How off the pace are they going to be compared to those that just got fresh tires? Or will the drivers that just got fresh tires get a little bit too much feeling of confidence and try to accidentally get on the throttle too soon here in these first couple of restarts, or just this restart alone? We will have to find out and see. As your front four again, old tires, not by much. It's just a 27 lap difference to 5th on back. It's going to be Jamie Horn, Brandon Six, Mark Dumont, Jeremiah Stutzman. Going to be the drivers a note to watch out for. Do they fall back or can they hold position? Zach Millets, one of the fastest drivers, been inside of our top 3 all night long. He'll start on the inside row in that 3rd car behind. Green flag is out. The question's about to be answered, and it's time to see, was it fresh tires or old, as we head down into turn number 1 off the exit of the corner. Already seeing drivers 2 by 2. Who thinks about going 3 wide, but they're already wrecking further behind. And oh no, it's Mike Leftwich, and it looks like Andrew St. Cour are going to be the drivers involved in this one.
That it is. Andrew St. Cour here going to be right in the middle of this one, and I think this is going to be, it's going to be, oh
what
yeah, actually,
in
this
the
one's going to
world?
be quite awkward, this one. When we first see it, it's going to be quite awkward, but
no.
I think we're going to see quickly that the 60 of Mike Leftwich makes a little bit of a mistake getting down into the corner, maybe even shifting too, because shifting can be a factor here at this racetrack, and you can already see, I mean, he's trying to let the field by here, the restart, but I think down here in 1 sense where we're going to see the big issue, and this is just tough for Andrew St. Cour, who was just trying to miss the checkup below him, and kind of gets just collected in this.
Yeah, I did a ride along already just to prep for this replay, and there was no shifting involved. It just was locking up on the brakes on entry, and when it locked it up, it spun the 60 down to the inside, and almost looked like a torpedo where the 60 just launches into the 12. Heavy damage for Andrew St. Cour, but it just was a simple, just too hard on the brakes, too late. That spins and sends the 60 down on the 12, and the brunt of it goes to St. Cour, who calls it a night early. I know you hate to see that for BMAC in the chat. Andrew St. Cour's night is officially done.
That is tough to see. St. Cour was trying to make the rebound after the slight spin, and just shows you one little mistake you make puts you back in the back of the field, and you can get caught up in someone else's mess. So unfortunate there, the 60, like you said, just under braking, gonna lose that rear end. It's so easy to do. We've seen it, I'd say 4 or 5 times tonight, down into 1. That one was a little bit more early into the braking zone than the others we've seen, but it can happen really at any time heading into 1. So not surprising for me to see, but just a tough break for Andrew St. Cour, who's going to be out of this race. But now it's going to reset him and re-rack him back up, Sam.
As these drivers getting prepared for this restart, again, it's still the older tires in our top 4. They didn't have enough time to really lose any time or ground there in the early going. Also update, Mike Leftwich was given an end of the line penalty for being at fault for that incident. But these tires, these restarts, I mean, Zach, I got a feeling we're going to be saying, I think, until maybe with 5 to go, I don't think we're done with cautions, because the aggression level, it always does this. It ramps up as the race gets closer and closer to the end, and all these drivers are recognizing the desperation is there. If you're a fast driver that you've been up front inside of the top 10, or you feel like you have a top 10 contending driver, you got to go now. Justin McMahon, Brandon Bowie, if you can find any little bit of speed to be up front, this is one of your final attempts really to make that push to the lead.
It really is. We'll see how it plays out for those drivers the likes of, and we'll see how this one shapes up here too, as Brandon Six and Jamie Horn kind of going a little bit of a duel, so to say, when it comes to tonight's restarts. These two have been going at it, and Six had the opportunity that one time, got loose, it allowed Horn to get back out front, and we'll see how it works out for him here. But Stutson and Mark Dumont, they did a great job to hold on the old tires on that last restart. We'll see if they fire off just as good this time. And I think with them having a little bit more heat than the drivers behind them, it's just allowing them to have a little bit more comfort those first few laps.
Also want to let the chat know, are aware of issues happening right now. And we will let you know in the chat if you cannot hear us. We are aware of the issues that are happening. We hope for them to get fixed as Zach and I will continue to commentate and hope that it happens. Otherwise, we are highly unfortunate of the scenario that we're in right now. We will, again, try our best to give you the rest of this broadcast.
That we will, Sam. Hopefully everything clears up. But looks like we'll be going back to green here with Jamie Horn and this to the green once again.
Jamie Horn, Brandon 6 could be your front runners as we side, but Zach, here we go. It's Jamie Horn. How aggressive is he willing to be to take back this lead position, knowing how critical clean air is? But behind him, it's Dumont sent to the outside wall.
That he is. I don't know what truck car that was. It looks
Oh,
like
no,
27 is a
trouble. It's the
wreck.
big one.
Big wreck.
More drivers piling in late, and it is truly the big one. It looked to be Cameron King and others, as these drivers all are trying to find a way get around this incident. But it looked like Cameron King, Gary Armio, drivers involved in this incident. And I mean, Zach, it's just bang incidences for these drivers and multiple involved. Justin McMahon, Gary Armio, Nicholas Shell going to be the main two that are caught with the incident of required damage. But this is the most, I mean, re-looking at it, Zach, this looks like the craziest netcode or just overcorrection I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was, I think it was netcode. I would like to say it's netcode, and that was
I don't know. Because if you do a ride along, his hands show overcorrection.
Yeah.
But if you look outside, it looks like the craziest netcode that he was hit.
Yeah,
I think it's just overcorrection.
I think it might just actually be overcorrection. So yeah, and it's turn 2. We've seen a lot of that tonight, especially off that corner. So again, next gen biting these drivers off the exit, and with this, Jamie Horn came to the pit road.
He does go into pit road. And for us, I think we will be going to a be right back commercial break. We hope to be back right after this with more great racing action, and hopefully the internet is fixed when we come back.